The Grand Terminus in Stanhope is like a lot of train stations on the East Coast. Huge and imposing and kind of run down. Giant pillars support the roof several stories overhead, and huge arched windows let in a dusty gray light that makes the polished marble tile floor look slick, like something in a king's palace. You can tell that once upon a time, trains were a big honking deal. But now these stations stink of dust and varnish, and the wooden benches look old and uncomfortable, and the low hum of noise within the walls sounds like the echoes of all the people who've passed through. It can be kind of creepy, especially if you're feeling creeped out already, which I completely was. I hauled my suitcase over to one of the benches and sat down, rooting around in its front pocket for my ticket. My mom wasn't kidding. I found a one-way to D.C. and a creamy envelope with her handwriting on the outside. "Give this to your guard escort. Be careful with it. It's very valuable. I love you, Mom." It bulged with something heavy. When I opened it up, a purplish glass disc about as big and thick as a cracker slid out into my palm. A twisty, tarnished silver frame covered its edges, and there was a little loop of metal on one side. It looked like an antique monocle. I held it up to my eye. Through the violet lens, people became dark shadows, and the light rippled like oil on water, but that was all. I looked at the giant antique clock over the ticket desk. 3:27. 14 minutes until my train departed. I slid the lens back into the envelope and put it and the ticket into a pocket of my jeans. I slid my cell phone out of my backpack and turned it on, and it immediately started buzzing like crazy with all the missed calls and texts my mom had sent while I was in school. There were a dozen texts, each more alarming than the last. Things like, "Call me as soon as you get this," and "Don't go home. This is very important." And finally, the one that spooked me the most, "Trust no one." I was so freaked out by the messages that I almost missed the woman. Even across the vast waiting area, it was clear that she was staring straight at me. She was tall and blonde and looked like she worked in an office, prim and proper in a dark suit and a crisp white shirt and slick black loafers, what my mom always referred to as sensible shoes. There was something about her that made my flesh crawl, though it took me a moment to realize what it was. She never looked away. It was hard to tell from this distance, but I was pretty sure she never even blinked. Weird. As I stood up and pretended to look at the giant departure board high on the wall, she raised a cell phone to her ear. Of course she wasn't alone. Over by the long marble ticket counter, two men in identical blue suits started marching stiffly toward me. On the other side of the room, from the archway that led to the train platforms, two other blue suits appeared. Then a fifth guy came in off the street. The six of them casually closed in on my bench, as though they all just happened to be strolling in my direction. Panic squeezed my chest. My mom had trusted me to get on the train, and I couldn't even get out of the station waiting room. No way could I run past them to the train platforms, or make a break for the street, or even reach the guard at the far end of the ticket counter. "Sorry, Mom," I whispered. The five guys stopped about 20 feet away, forming a loose semicircle and closing off any hope of escape. The blonde woman, who was clearly the boss, walked straight toward me. "Evelyn Ronan Truelove," she said. "There is nowhere to run." But she was wrong. I turned and sprinted for the only place she couldn't follow. I wrestled my suitcase through the door of the men's room. It looked mostly empty. An old man stood at the long row of grimy sinks, washing his hands. A guy in a janitor's uniform was in the corner, wearily leaning on a mop. I rolled past them and peered around the corner, hoping to find another exit. There wasn't one. Just an overflowing trash can and 8 ancient green toilet stalls along a wall of windows that looked like they hadn't been cleaned since the year I was born. All of the stalls were in use. Or almost all.